Afternoon Talk on SAFM.
Right, so we spoke about wealth creation earlier. We talk entrepreneurship as we do every Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 to 3. I don't have a mentor in the classic sense today just because of a slight change of programming, but doesn't mean you can't call in with your question and let's see if somebody who's even on the air can answer it. Or you can drop me an email because then we'll take it forward to next week. Ashraf at SAFM.co. And what we're saying, you're in a startup, in an existing business, you need a new direction, you need advice basically. So what sort of advice do you require? You put that to me at Ashraf at SAFM.co and then we'll put it through to the mentor. So that'll happen next week, but if you wish to call in right now, you can do that right away. And let's see if somebody listening, in fact, besides one or two of the experts that I have right now can in fact help you. Maybe John Field can help you because we're going to start with him with an inspiring story. John is the CEO of the Fed Group, born in Australia. Does that really matter? I don't know. We'll find out more. Does that make a difference? From right on top, I would think. John, good chatting to you. Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. John, what is your story?
Where do you want me to start?
Well, tell me where you are and how you got there.
I was in Australia at the age of 21. I went walkabout like all good Australians. I met a South African girl in England, came back to South Africa, married her, and I've been here ever since.
All right, now, besides the holiday aspect of South Africa, talking about the business side, how do you end up becoming the CEO of the Fed Group? Because I think you have an interesting story in terms of your rise to power.
All right. I was an employee with various companies, a company called Vavasseur, and Vavasseur got into trouble, and after that I went into various different small businesses, like running an estate agency and all different types of businesses. And eventually I got a job with Rand Properties, part of the Bala Rand Group. Then Bala Rand, or in fact the economy, this is about 79, 80. There was a downturn in the economy. Bala Rand said last in, first out. I ended up in a downturn economy with no job, and I actually have to get around and start looking for something to do.
So how old were you then when you had to look for something else to do?
Right. I became a broker for Stan Bond and Cyfrids, getting part bond investments and people wanting to borrow money through for Cyfrids and Stan Bond. From there, I then decided that, in fact, I would like to get a license. 1984, I tried to get a license, and I battled for 6 years before I eventually got a license from the Financial Services Board. But they put a condition to be, in fact, bring in one of the institutions as a partner, and I went through to Fed Shaw. I had 35% of the company, they had 65%, and that moved on. Then, about 1999, 2000, they sold their assets through to Investec Bank. But when I'd first gone into the agreement with Fed Shaw, I had preemptive rights, which meant if they wanted to sell their 65% shares, they had to sell them to me. And so I took up that, and I ended up with 65% of a part bond company and 65% of a trust company, and from there I built up into Financial Services Group.
So how did they give you the 65% right in the first place? Because I mean that to me was your key to overall success, isn't it? But how do you get that when you don't have it?
No. I originally had I applied for a new license, Services Board, and they wouldn't let an individual own 100% of financial participation mortgage bond company, and so they forced me to go through to Fed Group, Fed Shaw, and sell off 65% of the license I'd purchased from very, very small. It started off as the smallest part bond company with a book of 340,000 rand.
So if I ask you now, are you successful? You'll tell me what?
I am very successful.
What about those who say, and I chatted to Alon Reyes earlier on to say, success is a verb, it's not more than that, it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, and you didn't, if I tell you what I'm successful at, I've been married for 42 years, I've got 4 sons, happily married, 4 of them, or 3 or 4 of them work in the business, and I've got a magnificent wife, healthy children, and good health. And I've got a business that is growing at a sustainable rate.
All right, and just one last question. In terms of one piece of advice you can give people in terms of why you have succeeded.
I think the thing that I learned many years ago, and I'd always, people may hate me for this, but I'm going to say it anyway, when Nedbank got into trouble, I had a bank overdraft with them and they called it up, and that was the last time I had a bank overdraft with any bank. If you're going to run into trouble in any business, it's going to come from cash flow, bad cash flow, rather than slow or small profits. So you need a small profit at least to keep going, but be very, very careful of money from overdrafts and this, which can be called up, and that's how your business will close, on cash flow, on business. Okay,
I think that's if there's nothing else that you said, that's the one that's the great advice. John Field, the CEO of the Fed Group, great chatting to you. Let's move on now. We're going to talk more around money-making issues, entrepreneurial ideas that you can benefit from, and we'll do it right after this.